Earl.
Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Township Council Agenda Meeting, October 7th, 2014. Meeting called to order by myself at 7:30 PM. Please rise for the flag salute. Mr. Paluso, if you would.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I may ask you just to remain standing for a moment of silence for Ed Ramirez, who passed away this past week. He was involved in he was a community activist and involved in a lot of different things in Morris County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Karifi.
Here.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Paluso.
Present.
Mr. Stanton.
Here.
Mr. Valori.
Here. Others present, Mayor James R. Barbario, L&M Sandman, Business Administrator, Paula Cazarelli, Assistant Business Administrator, John Anglesino, Esquire, Township Attorney, Yancy Rezermis, Township Clerk, and Ann Cucci, CFO.
Statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 18, 2013, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in both the Daily Record on December 20, 2013, and the Star Ledger on December 23, 2013, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and local radio stations on December 18, 2013. Note, council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 11 o'clock a.m. on Sundays and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Thank you.
Let me also state that the purpose of this meeting is to set the agenda for the regular Township Council meeting of October 21st, 2014. Formal action may or may not be taken. Presentations, Mayor?
Just have to hit on.
Yeah, it'll pick up in the back there.
Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills proclamation. Whereas mental illness is a term used for a group of disorders causing severe disturbance of thinking, feeling, and relating. And whereas mental illness can affect persons of any age, sex, race, religion, social, and economic background. And whereas during the course of any given year, 5.5 million Americans are disabled by severe mental illness. Whereas nearly 2/3 of all people with diagnosis of mental disorder do not seek treatment because of stigma, ignorance, and lack of appropriate service and treatment options. And whereas mental illness impacts 1 in 4 individuals. Now therefore, I, James R. Barbario, the mayor of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, do hereby proclaim the week of October 5th through 11th, 2014 as Mental Illness Awareness Week, during which time I encourage efforts on public awareness and education related to mental illness. I further urge citizens to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it is needed. Dated this 7th day of October 2014. Buddy? Thank you. Okay. That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you. For the record, I sent a letter to Miss Mary Lee Fulcher, 10 Split Rock Road in Luton Township. Dear Miss Fulcher, on behalf of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, I extend to you our sincere gratitude for your generous contribution of the framed historical map of the Luton Parsippany area, the 1904 framed Bill of Rights, and the historical book, None Outsings Parsippany. It is so important to celebrate the role of history in our lives to help preserve the heritage that has shaped us as a people. You have taken the giant step to enrich the lives of children and families in Parsippany with your donation. Please know that those items will be proudly displayed in our historic museum for all to see. Sincerely, James R. Barbario. It was very nice of her to give us those artifacts because Parsippany has a rich history, and when this gets in there, I encourage you to all go see it. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to be going into closed session. It will be very brief. Okay, resolution, whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege and potential litigation matter, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. Motion to adjourn by myself, seconded by Mr. Stanton.
Mr. Council President, just so the record's clear, the purpose is for me to provide legal advice to the governing body concerning a matter related to the utilities.
Okay. Motion made by myself, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Make a motion to reconvene into open session?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Ordinances, second readings, and public hearings, none. Status of adopted ordinances. Ordinance 2014:28, 29, 30, and 31. Adopted dates, September 23rd, 2014. Mayoral action, September 25th, 2014. Effective date, October 15th, 2014. Discussion reminders. Scheduled meetings, October 21st, 2014, 7:30 p.m., regular meeting, and November 12th, 2014, at 7:30 p.m., agenda meeting. Note, this is a Wednesday. Minutes for approval, none. Administration?
Yes. We'd like to table the bid for the yard waste transportation disposal.
Okay.
And also, Council President, while I'm talking, I'd like to put an add-on for next session.
Okay.
The township used to operate, or the sewer utility used to operate, a multiple hearth incinerator. Well, we have a part that we no longer need, and the Belmont wastewater treatment plant, which is operated by United Water, needs this part. So I'm going to be putting on a resolution for next meeting to take action to sell that part to that utility.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or concerns on any of those?
What's the value of the port?
What's that?
What's the value of the port?
$7,785.
Okay. Quotations, proposals, qualifications. Received August 6, 2014, 11 a.m. Sealed qualification statements for health insurance broker of record services. Requested none. Ordinances. Any questions or concerns on the ordinances? Okay, no. Discussion, food trucks.
Just I think, Mr. Council President, again, we have an ordinance that has been prepared. We've surveyed several municipalities. I think I've indicated previously, Morristown actually had the most comprehensive ordinance applicable. We are in need of some policy guidance. We would strongly recommend a subcommittee that would meet. I think Mr. Snikes is here tonight. I think from administration, we would certainly like Mr. Snikes and Mrs. Sandman and Ms. Cosarelli to be part of the subcommittee from administration, and anybody else that they or the mayor feel deem appropriate. Maybe the chief as well would be appropriate on this matter, and certainly no more than 2 representatives of the council. And if it's the council's pleasure, we can, either through administration or through my office, coordinate a meeting so that we can get the policy guidance that we need and get the ordinance ready for your consideration.
Yes, if we can move ahead with that. I know Mr. Valori and Mr. Paluso are on that subcommittee. So.
Okay, so we would, then I'll have either my office or administration coordinate a meeting with Councilman Valori and Paluso.
Yes.
Okay, Rob, maybe we can talk after the meeting so like, we get your availability.
Sure.
Because I know your schedule's a little more limited, and we can schedule around that.
Okay, thank you. Resolutions?
Yeah, I have one question for the Fairview Insurance Agency. We saw all the charts on it. Can we find out what the price is per? You know, it comes down to how many people are in the town, employees. Can we get a chart that says what each one charges per employee?
What I'd like to do, in answer to that question, is to give you some information as it relates, without going right into price, because at this point, this is a document that's for qualifications, and the funding, the cost is a separate negotiated item. However, I would like to read into the record, if it's okay with the council president.
Good.
The township, under current collective bargaining agreement, is required to provide the employees and dependents a carrier to act as a liaison to resolve all claim issues. The relationship between the broker of record and our existing health insurance provider, IDA, must be a strong and a cogent one. This is important because we do not have the manpower nor the expertise to handle the volume which comes in. The calls alone under last year's watch was over 3,000 calls for information as well as direction. There is definitely a need for negotiation skills. What Councilman Stanton was referring to is the committee, not the committee, but the group, meaning the qualified purchasing agent, Mike Hardy, who is our purchasing agent, Mike, our finance officer, Ann Cucci, Paula Cazzarelli, our assistant, and myself met and put together the criteria whereby we came to terms with the four, which, Brian was referring to, in the four, and we have come to state that under that watch, after we reviewed all four requests for qualifications, that Fairview came out with a 97.25 aggregate total, and Brown & Brown came in second with a 91. I also would like to, for the record, ask our finance officer, who has the unique position to speak to the fact that in Morris Township, they had both Brown & Brown and also Fairview. So, Ann, would you just refer to
Yes, I hope you, oh, here I am, okay. In Morristown, the finance office in the town of Morristown handled all of the claims and all of the medical. It was a very close-knit, and I had the opportunity to work with both Brown & Brown and Fairview, and it really came to light when the current payroll supervisor retired. And once they did that, I really needed some help to get the new person up and running. And of course, when you're running payroll and benefits all in one little office, we had to be on board. And Brown & Brown, quite frankly, unfortunately, was not responsive. It could be up to a week before we would hear from them. And then Fairview was hired, and they have been, and still are, very responsive to the town. They created its own website on the Morristown website that's hooked there and has all the benefits there. They also did all the COBRA, coordinated the benefits, and you have things like when you have a dependent that reaches a certain age, they have to get they get their own medical. There's so many rules today that we could not possibly know it all. And this is where they were so responsive. And I encourage the council to look closely at Fairview. And although Brown & Brown was fine for certain parts like risk management, when it came to the day-to-day activities, Fairview was so much superior, to be honest.
Brian, in answer to your question, this was, as I say, a report for qualifications. So really, the breakdown of the dollar amount is not part of that negotiation. Certainly, we do, we'll be negotiating. We have numbers of what, Fairview has in the past, but that's my understanding. I would defer to council if that's how I'm reading that correctly, in the report,
My,
in the
They
full
what?
reports. That there really was no reference to an offense. It has nothing, it's not a matter of the financial.
No, we didn't, we submitted, the township issued, consistent with what it has always done for this service, a request for qualifications. There is no pricing set forth in the request for qualifications, and that has been the case for some years. In fact, I think Fairview has actually been providing this service for the town back to 2007 or thereabouts. It's been quite some time and predates this administration. The township does not pay Fairview for this service. It is up to Fairview to negotiate compensation from the carrier, and that's set forth in the RFQ. The township doesn't have anything to do with that. That is a negotiation between two separate parties, which frankly, it is none of our business to get involved in that. The arrangement with the carrier or third-party administrator, as it was, is set independently. There is, as I understand it, because I looked into this when there was some transitioning between Jasmine and Ellen, that whatever commission, the commission that is paid to Fairview is below market, but it is, again, it's not our business. It's not the township's concern to become involved with compensation as it relates to two independent parties. So the evaluation here is not driven by compensation or price, because there is none directly from the township. It is based upon the qualifications and who is best equipped to provide that service. It's a service that we are obligated to provide, as Ellen has indicated, both under our labor agreements, and it is also, the other part of this is that the broker of record has to go out to the market
Yes.
to get reinsurance, which is catastrophic insurance to protect the township over and above, what we self-insure. There is a need to go back out to the market shortly. That can only be done by a broker. You need a broker of record to do that. The township does not have the qualifications or the personnel to do that. So it is a position that I would say the township would be putting itself at risk if it did not fill.
I have a question, Ellen.
Yes.
If, okay, these are RFQs, so they're basically submitting, it's like a resume that you're submitting.
Correct.
Is there anything wrong with, can these companies come back to us with the financial part of it? Because, this is a committee that put the scoring system together. So who's to say that, okay, one company beat the other one by 6 points, but that company comes in at $1 million cheaper to cover all of our town employees with no effect on their, no change, no effect on their health plan whatsoever. I think that should be something that's part of this process. Is that possible to get that from them? Have these companies go to these other companies, get a price, and be able to come back and say, okay, well, here's my qualifications and here's what I can provide at this cost. Because based on this chart, you're talking 6 points based on 3 or 4 people deciding. Whereas, if one company comes in and says, I've negotiated, every employee is getting their exact same coverage, no change, and it's going to cost the town $1 million less, that might be something that we would all consider.
What I would like to say is, as you know, this is the meeting that we discuss. And between now and before you have to deliberate on it at the meeting of the 21st, I'm going to, in consultation, work with the attorneys to figure out how some information can be ascertained. I will say that it wasn't just 4 people, it was people that have been in the business for a long time, myself as an administrator and a finance person, and Ann and Paula, as well as Mike, who has an exemplary record as a QPA. But I will also state for the record that I would not be a valued employee or personnel if I also was not concerned about the bottom line. And I will make every effort so that we can communicate prior to the vote.
Yeah, I mean,
on,
my only thing is if
I hear
if
you.
we
I
vote
mean,
on
of
one
course,
and then
yeah.
they go to negotiate, you know, we're stuck. We're stuck with them,
Well,
whatever they
you-
negotiate.
It's a chicken and egg situation, because you have to have the broker to go out and negotiate. So step 1 is you need your broker. Step 2 is the broker goes out and negotiates. So we can't, you can't predetermine how that negotiation is going to be. Step 1 is to hire the broker. Now, in the case of Fairview, they do, since they have been representing the town for a long time, there is a track record of their performance by which you can gauge their effectiveness by negotiating a good deal for the town in the marketplace. And certainly other companies would be able to, and certainly had the opportunity in their submissions to highlight extraordinary savings that they may have been able to achieve for their clients in the marketplace. And I'm sure all of that information that was submitted was taken into account by the review committee in making a recommendation. But you need the broker, and then the broker goes out to the marketplace to negotiate and get the right coverage at the right cost. And, our benefits package is a unique benefits package. And so, I mean, it's not my business, but whoever goes out and negotiates has to be very familiar with the benefits that you are obligated to provide to make sure that they match those up. And then obviously they have to have the experience in the industry and the ability to deliver. And I think that's why when you see the weighting on some of the categories, certainly, their experience in the industry and familiarity with the township was important. And again, in the case of Fairview, again, they have a track record. And so I hope that's responsive to your question.
Ellen?
Yes.
I have a question for you. I see
Yes.
that a RFQ review committee was put together, and that entailed, obviously, the Assistant BA and a few of the other folks that work for the
And
town.
Mike, yes.
Okay. I had the opportunity to read, there was 4 RFQs that were
Yes.
placed, and all 4, to be quite honest with you, just being a new council person, reading the RFQs, they were very impressive in regards to their backgrounds and
Right, and that's why you saw the weighting. No one got like 50, 60. They were all
No.
90s and 80s.
Absolutely.
And you did come to terms with the fact that I know you leaned a little bit maybe towards Brown and Brown with Fairview coming in second. But I will say that we also, it was on our watch to do our due, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think I'm anticipating a question. We did our due diligence and we called multiple, especially for the top 2, we called multiple towns and, folks that use them. And of course, most times when you're putting down a reference, you.
And that's my point
Yeah,
again, so
yeah,
because
that's what I thought.
I did a little bit of my due
Yes.
diligence, and I did some inquiring, because I had made mention to you and the mayor that I had the opportunity to read it. I would just say, going forward, and obviously a decision hasn't been made yet, to have the council, maybe the finance committee or a member of the council being involved with the RFQ committee, so the council is more well-rounded on, obviously, making a decision on that. So I think that would be helpful in the order for transparency, to be there and asking the questions in regards to why are, deciding to use this particular scheme to come up with an average for the choice. And then also the track record. Again, they all seem to have track records based on reading those RFQs for the work they did for several different towns throughout, I guess, their tenure as insurance brokers. And The other complaint that I have for you is,
Before you go on with complaint, I just want to also, for the record, say that, and it was mentioned, I think, by Ann, Brown & Brown does have a very good track record as a risk manager, but this is not for the risk manager. This is something above and beyond that, which the review came back that they were not as responsive, and that I can read one of the ones that I took, and this gentleman is someone that has been in the management field for a very long time, and I'll provide you this document, but it just was in response to us asking. It says, I have had a couple of experiences with this firm, Brown & Brown, from Edison and Sussex County, and have found that their services to be less than competitive. I can provide you with alternative firms that will beat them on service or risk management, oversight, and fixed fees. Let me know if you're interested. So I just happen to have one or two of these, and then there's another one that's of a more positive for Brown & Brown. So,
okay.
you know, those things we can provide.
And I'm glad you got that information.
Yes.
But in regards to Fairview, and I guess we're both aware of this because we discussed it, there's been many complaints in regards to customer satisfaction, in regards to billing, for bills to be corrected, for service, and for the employees. Actually, I was approached by many employees over, not even my turn as a councilman, in regards to, you know, the billing being corrected. So how about customer satisfaction with the employees that they're serving?
I'm going to just ask Paul on that. I mean, I know we spoke.
I know that, you know, you've
yeah.
been working on it, but
Yes.
I know that has been an issue in the past with Fairview in regards to the billing, where not very user-friendly, calling down there, trying to get somebody that's responsive. You're told one thing, and then it takes forever, and next thing you know, you have to go see Joe Benefits and actually hand them the bill to be taken care of.
There is a point person through Fairview. Jackie Ortiz handles all of that.
Yeah, and I've dealt with Jackie
You know,
Ortiz,
with
too.
anything, a lot of the issues come to play where the providers are submitting the claims to the wrong AmeriHealth. There are various AmeriHealths, and that is one of the main reasons why there tends to be a delay on what has occurred. Anytime an employee has come to administration with something of a concern of a service not being covered, the attention that I have gotten and Joe has gotten is one that is immediate and has been resolved to the satisfaction of the employee. I'm not saying that everything is perfect. They did receive a score of 95.
Okay, so have these other RFQs that were submitted, have they been asked or any due diligence done in regards to their customer satisfaction with the employees that are actually paying them indirectly? So is there any complaints with them?
You could only base that on, like you had mentioned, Councilman President. Oh,
You know, I can answer that, Councilman. That was the biggest problem we had with Brown & Brown, to be honest with you, not responding to the employees because of them not being able to get their benefits paid.
So they both have something in common a little bit. There's a
No,
problem with
Fairview
that
was
customer
immediate.
satisfaction.
Brown & Brown could be over a week. And that's just personal experience that I had with them. I really, like I said, risk management-wise, they were terrific. But when it came to the day-to-day activities, they were really non-responsive.
And maybe in the near future, we could do this, and I'm not saying who we're going to wind up picking, but I think that in the near future, the governing body, either the folks up here or who's ever here, should be really involved with those RFQs, and then maybe there should be some type of maybe sample that goes out to the folks that work for us to say, hey, you know, are you pleased with the service that we're providing, okay? And obviously, there's going to be some variables with that, but at least we have an insight as to say, hey, you know, we might be paying X amount of dollars, but we're really not getting the best for what we're paying for, or maybe they are performing. And I just think that when it comes down to it, it's the folks that work for the town, it's their loved ones that obviously are, you know, being billed, and if you have to try to track down who you need to speak to in regards to getting a bill paid, I think this is just fair for the folks that work for our town.
One of the things I'd like to address in that, and you said it, their loved ones, when we reached out to make sure that we did our due diligence and were also very balanced, you received two documents, one from Fairview in concert with the wellness coach, and the wellness things with detailed description and case study after case study of what has happened in a very positive way through Fairview working together. In fact, there has been, a number mentioned that was mentioned when we had our wellness meeting with them, and that was that because of working together with people's health concerns and even the mental stress and everything, that they feel that there was about approximately $1.1 million in savings for the fact that they have done that. Then when we wanted to do a fairness and equitable request of Brown & Brown, we asked them, please provide something similar to the wellness and the caring about our people. What we got is, as you were provided, was just a description of what you would do to put one in place. If I were Brown & Brown, I would give you the same type of document that was provided to us by Fairview, which would give you a detailed description without mentioning names, but case study. There were about eight or so of them that were phenomenal case studies that were truly our experience in the year 2013 to 2014. We provided that same opportunity to Brown & Brown, and what they gave us was a description of how you would start one. So, that to me put me over the top with leaning towards the other, and as you say, working hard with them to make sure that the other side of the coin also gets addressed, which is making sure that when people ask, especially when you're going through pain and, the suffering or your child, that they get immediate service and immediate attention, and we're on it.
Thank you, Ellen.
Any other questions? Anything else? Any other questions on any of the other resolutions?
I have a question. Mrs. Sandman, on resolution for the COA's review and approval, can you explain who Special Homes of New Jersey is?
Yes, in fact, Special Homes of New Jersey, I'm glad you asked that one, because that was the other one I wanted to give more detail on. In our spending plan that was adopted or we received it back from the state, saying that on December 27, 2013, our plan was approved and our spending plan was approved. The folks at, what is it? I just want to make sure I have I want to get it, okay. Already to date, and Ann was instrumental in working with me on this, Special Homes of New Jersey has completed a work at 1259 Littleton Road, and this is 4 units for individuals for folks that are in need of some assistance as they transition through making their way in the world. And what had happened is when the spending plan went in, the 75 was approved by the COA, but what was not approved was the additional 34. On December 17th or so, 2013, a resolution was passed by the council giving permission that they were to get the additional $34,000. They've gone through our planning board. They've gone through everything. In fact, they even needed a handicap ramp that they worked diligently on. So we're proud to be a part of this group because they've really made a difference in the community. So what happened is, as you can see, this spending plan was dated December 27th. The resolution that was approving the 34 out of monies that are, committed to this purpose was the 17th. So we were getting this back in the mail when that resolution was passed. So in order to, the COA rules and regulations that, have not been affirmed, but we are still required to go down to the COA office and get approval. But the good news is on this one, all we're required to get is the executive director, Sean, is to give us, Sean Thomas is going to give, there should be no reason why not to give his approval. And I have Ed giving the assurance, he's the planner, and he's telling me I'm doing okay. So that's what that's all
Have
about.
we worked with Habitat for Humanity from Morris County?
Yes, I have, and I've met with them, and I've also spoken to them. Habitat for the Humanity, it has a spending plan of $150,000 on this spending plan. And what I will do, Rob, is I will provide this for you so you can see the document. Other people we've dealt with on the spending plan are New Bridge Services, Habitat for the Humanities, Special Homes, and New Bridge Services. So we're doing a lot of good work out there with the monies that were raised through the Builders Remedies.
And how about homeless solutions as well?
I don't have, I have Rose House, I have methane, what do I have?
Nathaniel?
Methanian, what's the name of the? Okay, now that I said it wrong, and I got, yeah, right. Anyway, no, we haven't had that, but again, the spending plan had to be established because, dare I say it, there was a money grab by the state of New Jersey.
Right, I remember
Our
that.
funding, if it hadn't been done. So this is still a little bit of a work in progress, but I can assure you that the folks at the special homes are a phenomenal group of people to work with, and they crossed their Ts and dotted their Is, so
Great.
this
If
is
you can
something.
provide me with a copy of the
I would
plan. to see the approved people,
Absolutely,
I'd like to
I
see
would,
that.
and I'll
Thank
do
you.
the whole plan, so you
Also,
can.
Appreciate it.
I encourage the council, if they have the opportunity, to go to the PAL and see, they have lunches there from 12 to 1 with the Rose House, and it's really touching to go and have these individuals wait on you, special needs, but it's something that I think you would be worth your while.
I agree with the mayor. If you haven't gone already, you know, it is very touching, and they do a great job over there.
And the other
Support
people
them.
we're dealing with are Community of Hope. They're
Good.
another entity we're dealing with. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Township Office Reports, Engineering Report.
Okay, no parking, Twin Oaks Road, Twin Oaks Court, Pinecrest Lane. Office has received a request to place no parking zones, Twin Oaks Road, several surrounding streets behind the high school. Students are parking in front of driveways, mailboxes too close to intersections. Police Department investigated this request. It was determined that parking should be prohibited one side of Twin Oaks Road, Twin Oaks Court, Pinecrest Lane. Prohibition be from 8 to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday from September through June, similar to parking prohibitions in other neighborhoods around schools. In addition, suggested parking now be permitted on the south side of Farron Drive. Ordinances must be adopted by the Township Council.
Council President, may I just, if I can, I just want to mention that on the report, although it says there for Manor Lake Dam, no change or no council action required, I did provide, because today I wanted more information for those that are living in that area, and I know there were two women that did take the documents, but if anybody's here from Manor, it describes from the folks who are a consulting engineer, the amount of things yet to be done for the completion of the dam and all the rest that goes with it. So anybody that would have an interest, and I did email it to 2 or 3 people that I'm dealing directly with so that they get that information. And I also just want to mention that last meeting, we had the folks from Carlson Road area. I received some additional photographs of, okay, we have a pile of earth there that needs to be removed, but when garbage is in front of it, we can take care of that. So I got in touch with Greg, DPW, and I said, it's unacceptable, unacceptable. Don't be telling, I know we're waiting on the results of the testing, but all this garbage that was in front of it is now removed, because we said we need to do something for people to show them that, yes, we're waiting on results for the thing, but we need to keep it clean and as neat as possible. We also did address the feral cat issue, as well as a few other items. Some type of spill was out there. We sent out OEM, and the folks were pleased that we are doing what we can do as we wait for that soil to be removed. I want to go on record, too. At last meeting, I was saying that I couldn't actually say when the startup would be, because I don't know when the test results would come back. We're going in day 9. They said 7. I will be in front of that office tomorrow to say, can you give me the test results? Because as soon as that soil is removed, that job can go up and running. And the contractor of record is ready to do the work. He's not going anywhere. So that was a concern. People thought maybe he was stepping away from the project. He is not.
Mr. Salmon, if
Yes.
I could just pick up on that. Thank you
Yes.
for addressing that. You did a great job with it. I did look at the project as of yesterday. I did see that the tarp that's on it is actually blowing in the wind, and it's uncovered a lot of the soil. Could somebody take a look at that to ensure that soil is tarped? Because if there is possible contamination, there is neighbors in the adjacent houses.
Yes, we will. And the other thing is I got an assurance from the DPW director that on a weekly basis, it will be swept. And I'm hoping that doesn't have to continue too much longer, that the earth pile will be gone. And again, just for the record, as far as contaminants, we're talking about the permissible 0.6, and what's there is tar and oils to a point of 0.62793. So, I mean, I want to keep the tarp, to keep the dust down and
Yes.
things like that, but just for the record. I
And
just
Mrs. Salmon, you said that you addressed the feral cat
Yes.
issue. How was that addressed? Was that addressed through a trap neuter program?
All of the above. You can say, we had, I'm working with the folks in the neighborhood. I had the animal control folks go out there. We had the animal control warden go to the homes of folks that have the cats, that are feeding the cats, and advise them of that. And we spoke to the neighbors, and they were very pleased that we were out there. So we've been out there with the neighbors on every issue. In fact, when Greg called back and said that the job was cleaned up, he spoke to the neighbors that we will keep that up too. So we're working together. And the feral cat issue is not one that can easily be solved immediately, but through education and decency to your neighbor. Because, as you know, when the cat relieves himself, it's usually not on your property, it's on the neighbor's property, so,
But they're-
sorry about that, but that's the reality of
But
it.
they're not capturing them and
At
putting
this
them to
point,
sleep.
I don't believe they're capturing them, okay? Because they have, feral cat, we all know the difference between a domestic and the feral, but some of these folks are feeding their, just having the house, that not cats in the house, they're letting them roam, so.
We do have a trap neuter release
Yes.
program.
Yes,
that's
we
very
do.
good, that we
Yes.
could
I
look
don't
into
think
as
we
well.
do. I don't think we have one.
Oh, we don't?
I don't think we do. I'm not
No,
quite.
we did not implement.
No, we don't have.
So that's why they-
Parsippany, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's why we
We don't have
lost.
that, right? You're saying?
No, we do not
We
have
did
it.
at one time
Yeah.
pass.
But
They
Well,
were doing
But
it.
through
Pass.
education,
what we did,
Pass left because we do not have it.
Okay.
and also we.
They went to the Mount Pleasant Animal Shelter.
Got
They
it.
don't work at ours anymore.
Our ordinances, if I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. If you feed the animal, you own the animal.
yeah, that's.
So I'm not feeding you no more, Lou. I don't know. if that's-
So
that was the
answer,
position.
Rob, but in answer to your question then, that's why they didn't do it. I know that they didn't do it, but I didn't know that the reason was because we don't do it. But they were out there and they spoke to the neighbors.
That was the position of our animal control officer. If you feed it, you own it.
Yep.
And you're liable for any damage that the cat does.
He did communicate that.
How Mount Pleasant Animal Shelter doesn't have that problem, I don't know, because they have a trap, neuter, and release program.
Can we work with them to possibly implement in our program, in our center?
Our ACO is opposed to that.
And they report to the administration?
Yeah, I mean, let me look into that.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Okay, at this time, we'll take a
I
straw poll.
have, I
Oh, go ahead.
have several things on this engineering report I'd like to go over.
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, the revisions for escrow requirements for sidewalks and driveways. I don't know if you listen to this too. This issue has been going on. I used to forward all of the complaints I get to Mike Puchalowski, and he's promised that we need to review it. The escrow requirements are outrageous. They're going to be corrected. I forwarded every single complaint I got to Mike Puchalowski, and it was going to be changed. This is like 15 years later, and at the end here it says recommendations will be presented. My question, Ellen, is when? I've been waiting 15 years for this to be changed.
I'm sorry.
I was speaking to
Paul,
her,
Paul,
Mike.
yeah. What one are you on?
For the escrow.
The escrow,
Mr. Lau.
Yeah.
well, it's not just him.
But, yeah.
I've been getting complaints for 15 years from people.
The escrow that we charge for someone to repave their driveway or their sidewalk is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And Mike Buchalowski was promised it's going to be changed. He agreed it was outrageous. This is 15 years later. Buchalowski's retired, what, about 5, 6, 7 years already?
Okay.
Right? And now it says here at the bottom, recommendations will be presented. Well, my question is, when? I've been waiting 15 years.
All right, I will say that I have become intimately involved with this report, and on that one, I do remember you mentioning it, and I was so focused on Manor Lake and FEMA and Carlson Road that I
right.
need to say
All right.
to you that
Next meeting.
you know, it won't even, recommendations will be presented.
My question is
Sometimes a
when?
report, you know, can get stale and old, and I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. It shouldn't be on there. It should have been long gone, and it will be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, Alan. It's
Thank
been there
you.
several years.
The
I've
next,
seen it as
the
well.
next item I want to just bring up is this no parking, Twin Oaks Road, Twin Oaks Court, and Pinecrest Lane. If you go back a number of years, we had the same complaints from the residents on Ferran Drive, because the students from Parsippany High School were parking in the back streets because there's no parking spaces for them at the high school parking lot. All of this started, by the way, if you drive by Parsippany High School, you'll see about 14 or 15 school buses parked there. And then you'll also see there's spaces reserved for the drivers of those buses, because they got to park their cars when they go to get the bus. So all those spaces have, in my opinion, been taken away from the kids. And in my opinion, those school buses don't belong there. We listened to the people on Ferran Drive. We put in no parking all along the streets there, okay, so the kids couldn't park there anymore. So they found someplace else to park. So now we're going to put more no parking signs on these roads. And guess what? The kids are going to find someplace else to park. This is squeezing a balloon that's going to pop up someplace else. In my opinion, this is no solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is to get the school board to get those buses out of Parsippany High School, put them on the school board parking lot, okay, and let the kids have the parking they used to have. Now, the answer you'll get from the administration is, oh, well, the seniors have parking spaces, we just don't allow juniors to have them. Well, in the end of the year, the junior year, the kids are reaching 18, they're getting cars, they have their driver's licenses, and I've been to these streets, and you have, during this, from September to January, you have maybe 14 cars parked on these 3 streets, 14. By the end of the year, though, there's about 30 cars parked on these streets. And it is a problem for the residents, I agree. But in my opinion, the solution is get the buses out of there and give those spaces back to the kids, not more no parking signs.
Mike, we have a new administration at the school. Would you want, Mayor, you were going to probably say that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'll contact the new superintendent, and if you want to be, you know, it's up to you, want to be in the meeting with me, we can meet with them on this subject matter.
Well, I had planned to go to the school board and complain there, but I don't know, maybe your idea is better.
Well, yeah, because I think, we'll explain to him, the situation. You're absolutely correct. Once you make a no parking in one area, then you're going to have to make it in every area over there.
In the meantime, the kids are getting ticketed, their cars are getting towed away, like they're criminals, and that's not right. The kids are getting mistreated.
Okay.
And then the last thing is, at our last agenda meeting, I had requested that Reynolds Avenue be placed on the engineer's list, and it's not there. Reynolds Avenue has patches upon patches upon patches where it hasn't been rebuilt yet. And again, this is another 15-year issue that's been going on. Mike Puchalowski used to tell me that the DEP didn't approve where the drains were going. That's what I heard when Mike was there. I haven't heard any changes yet, but Reynolds Avenue it's got to be done. It's absolutely horrendous. The patches on the patches are breaking.
Mike, when I go to visit Justin tomorrow or Thursday, I will talk about the sidewalk driveway repairs issue and as well as Reynolds Avenue.
Thank you.
And you'll see action on it. Thank you.
Ellen, I just want to add to Mike's comment about the high school.
Yes.
25 years ago, when I was a student at Parsippany High, we had the same problem. So the problem hasn't really gone away. And like Mike's analogy, you know, you're squeezing a balloon, it's going from one area to another. And I remember when they put the no parking signs up. So, you know, thank you for addressing that because it's gone on for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Rick.
I already spoke to the president of the Board of Education about this matter, so it's definitely on the radar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to put this ordinance on.
Which one, the no parking?
Yes.
I would request that we table it and try to pursue the other alternative first.
So you're making a motion?
I'll make a motion, we table that.
I'll second it.
All right, motion made to table that by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Paluso. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just for clarification, you want to table both ordinances?
The no parking.
The no
for
parking is
Twin
the
Oaks
one we're
Road,
addressing.
That, the one that said an ordinance must be adopted by the Township Council?
There's
Twin
two
Oaks Road.
ordinances.
What's the other one?
One was for
Different street.
the Oak,
It's all one.
It's all one.
It's all one ordinance.
Yeah.
Pinecrest and
I
Twin
have two
Oaks.
ordinances.
We have them
One
all
is
together.
for Ferran Drive and the other is for Twin Oaks Road, Twin Oaks Court, and Pinecrest Lane.
No, Ferran Drive was to remove some
remove,
no
yeah.
parking.
So you want to keep the one for
You
Ferran
can
Drive?
keep that one on.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll keep
Okay.
that. Okay, Chief Financial Officer?
You need me to? Yeah.
Anything?
Okay, I have a resolution to authorize the cancellation of tax sale premiums. By law, we can, after 5 years of the premiums that's collected during tax sale, we are supposed to and have to cancel them. It's part of the audit recommendations that, thank goodness we didn't get, but speaking to the auditor and past practice, this is something we need to do, and that money goes right to fund balance for the town.
Okay. Thank you.
And since you brought up the audit, we're already, it's not your fault because you're new here, but
Please,
it has
It's
nothing
all
to do
your
with you.
fault.
But I know
it's my fault, I take,
you're working on it, but, you know, the audit's one quarter past due already.
oh, you're right.
We're going into the second quarter that we have not received. Is there any
Yep.
hope that we're going to get this soon?
Yes, there is.
Have they
He's
indicated
hoping,
when?
we're finishing up now, and hopefully within a week, I'm hoping to have a draft.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're working hard.
Yeah, no, there's truly light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not the oncoming train. It is definitely an audit report.
When do you expect council to have it in their hands?
I'm hoping
2 weeks?
2 weeks, at least a draft.
The draft.
A
yeah.
draft, okay, great,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Good. Okay. Mr. Inglesino?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Council President. Two items that we would request to be put on the agenda for consideration by the council at the next meeting. Both will be settlement agreements regarding garbage pickup. One would be for Brookside, which is 320 units. The other at Mill Run, which is 230 units. We've been contacted by both associations who want to participate in the settlement agreement and service arrangements that the township has made with other similar associations. Very positive development for the township, both financially. It's a positive development for the residents in terms of better service and better from an employee standpoint because now we'll be using front loaders instead of the cans. So we would ask that those be put on basically under the same terms and conditions as the previous agreements.
Okay.
Also, with regard to, I forget her name, I think it was Dolly Patel, who was here at the last meeting. We have taken the action to terminate that contract with that contractor. And if, there's quite a bit of work to do. It frankly, the determination is being made whether or not it will exceed the bid threshold. If it does, we'll go out to bid for a new contractor. I think there's a contractor or two that we have in mind. That process would take really no longer than a week if we're forced to bid, and we'll get a new contractor on site to get that problem addressed for her. Lastly, there was some correspondence in your package concerning IMS Drive. Candidly, I don't think we ever foresaw that this would, I'm sorry? Oh, I guess we sent it to the clerk, but you don't have copies. But anyway, I bring up to speed. I don't think we ever anticipated that this matter would garner the attention it did, but just by way of recap, back in, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because it looks like it's going to be named IMS Drive after all. Back in May, we received a request through Mr. Cassis's office from the president of Oak Lake Plaza Condo Association, which is the owner of the property, to name that street, Inter Park Boulevard, to name it IMS Drive. And as we have pointed out to you, under the statute, whether the road is a public road or a private road, you have the ordinance power to determine whether or not to rename the road. For reasons that the council stated, they've determined not to rename the road IMS Drive. But we then received a letter from council for Oak Lane that they intend to submit an amended plat. Because it is a private road under the law, they can submit an amended plat to the planning board and effectuate a renaming of the road to IMS Drive. And I don't think that it is their intention to be contentious with the township. In fact, to the contrary, I know they don't want to be. But as was indicated at the time that the ordinance was considered, they had already contacted the post office. They had already contacted their people who would be interacting with that corporate headquarters, and they, their initial thought was to have the road put in the name of the tenant to give it an identity and a branding. So again, I don't think that their motive is to be contentious with the township as much as it is that they don't want to undo everything that they had already done, and they would like the road to be branded as IMS Drive. And I have to concur with the letter that we received from their counsel in that regard. If they go to the planning board and submit for an amended plat, and they get an amended plat under the law, it's a private road, they have the right to rename the road. So I guess I wanted to provide you with that update.
If I may, I don't know why well, since it's out of the council's hand, why we wouldn't approve it. That's being business friendly, and there's other roads and here, like Landadex Plaza, that was not Landadex anymore, but they're gone. But we named it Landadex. Then you have Gate Hall, you have Hilton Court, you have, so it's just, being business friendly. But
What upset me was that they just went ahead and did all this without
I agree. I mean,
even
that's
asking
something
us.
to-
They didn't bring it up to us. They just, they just went and did it.
Yeah, I think that they thought that, again, I don't think they tried to be contentious. There was some communications between the owners of Oak Lake and Danny Cassis. I don't know exactly what those communications were, but yeah, they did jump the gun a little bit, no question about that. We kind of got the request after the fact, after the communications, and in any case, I just wanted to give you an update as to what was happening there, so that if you see that it's IMS Drive, you will know why.
Question I have for you, there's other dwellings that are on that road going in there, am I correct? So how do they feel about their street being renamed?
Well, there's nobody in there yet.
Okay, so you're telling me that on 46 there, when you go
I mean,
in,
there's nobody in the back, that when you make that right onto IMS Drive, so whatever, if there's anything ever going to be built there, say we'll call it Mitchell Ave, then they'll make a left on Mitchell Ave.
Yeah, it's a condominium association
Yeah,
set up
okay.
back there. So, I guess, and I mean, I haven't reviewed their condo documents, but it's a condominium association form of ownership.
Okay.
And so it's the Oak Lake Plaza Condominium Association. So they have the power through their condominium association to do it internally. So there may be what appear to be other properties back there, which my understanding is all part of the same condo association.
Okay.
So that's how they have jurisdiction there. But, the bottom line is those are issues that I guess the planning board would look at a little more closely, because they're going to have to file an application to the planning board for an amended plat. And that would be the more appropriate place to look at those kinds of issues, because that would be an application before the board.
Okay.
All right. Township offices, committees, open space presentation.
Thank you, Council President, for giving me an opportunity to, as you know, I was directed by resolution.
Microphone.
Oh,
Get the other light.
Is it on? I think it's been on all night, so it's just the battery might have died.
how did you know that? We're watching everything. All right.
We had the same problem last night at the planning board meeting. Maybe try that.
There's a
that's
time
not
delay
working
on the
either.
thing. Just hold it for a
You know
minute.
what, I can project.
Okay.
No, then it
No, you
won't
need the
pick up on-
recording, needs to be recorded.
go on eventually.
There's a time delay on it.
Magic touch. As you know, the council requested that we pursue open space funding through the county to the tune of $3.5 million. And I thought, what better part of valor but to present the open space presentation that we'll be making on October 23rd at 6:40 to the folks at the county. And one of the more important things, because I've been doing this for a little while, is if you go to the slide where they could see it a little bit better. Okay, I thought the aerial was very telling. Do you have your little light thing? Yeah. Yeah, laser. Laser. Just be careful with the pilots. Yeah, I see that. Mhm. Okay, this one? Okay, there you go.
Probably try lower.
Lower?
No, lower on there. Well, there you go.
Thank you. All right. As you can see, we didn't practice this part of the presentation. I will assure you that the drawings themselves, did that change? Can I get back, can we go back? Yeah, thank you. You know, I'm getting old, but I remember the pictures. Okay. Well, anyway, there you go. No, the first one. How about that? Yeah, that, oh, no, now you're going in the wrong direction. Okay, there you go. As you can see, this is the open space part right up here, and this is the other property. Here's the 1/3 of it. But unique to say and important to say is that when you look at it, I don't know if I don't want to block the council, but if you look at it, one of the things that the county always likes is connectivity. And all back here, you can see. I'm not really shaking, but that light's moving like I am. But anyway, back in there. Over here, this is our open space property. This is our open space property. And what's great is parking. There's about 60 spots, we said, Ed. Here, you know what? You do the lighting, and I'll do the talking, and we'll do it together. Anyway, if you just would go back. Again, draw the line to show the open space part. Okay, we're gonna have to, yeah, okay. Sorry about, okay. You can sit down and.
Common open space area buffer that's behind adjacent office building.
And we'll be working with the managers of these facilities to make sure that we can connect and utilize that as a really tremendous walking access. The other thing is, Ed, would you just go back to where we own the property, and also the two parcels such as where the roller skating rink is and the ice skating rink, as well as the 60 spots that are there, as well as the community gardens. And Ed, I think the next slides are going to show us that. All right, here you can see it. You see our proposed open space purchase, then the open space corridor, which is there and will be there on forever, and then there's all of what we own and the little parcel there. What does that refer to as?
Certainly. Up in here is Forest Drive Park area. This is the Bevqua tract, which is where the roller hockey and ice skating rinks are, as well as the engineering facility and community gardens, which you'll see on the next slide.
All right, so, again, this just brings more to what we're gaining by acquiring that open space. Next slide. This is just a more detailed to show you that it is very wooded, and that you can see the 60 parking spaces, and the fact that it is, some recreational facilities, and then another 24 over by the community gardens. So it kind of brings it all together. And the county, as I said, loves connectivity and the fact that there are multiple uses for the property. Next slide. This is just a drawing. I think I'm going to turn it over to Ed because he wants to talk about the cut and the distances.
I actually have my own.
Okay, he has his own mic. I'll go back
Thank
here.
you. Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah, well,
What this illustration shows, I think you've seen this in the earlier presentations that we provided to the council, is that the open space parcel, what we're looking at is the actual area that we're looking to purchase is the minimum distance between the adjacent R3 zone and the proposed rear line of future development would be 388 feet, almost 400 feet. Of that, there is 290 feet of complete preservation, and also what they're asking for in the agreement is a 98-foot area for grading. And so what we've done is to provide you with a series of illustrations to try to visualize what that area may look like as a result of the grading operations, but yet also what you are obtaining, because there was questions as to the Doremus Ridge as it was referred to, and what we'll be focusing on is this area. Obviously, some may know that the Doremus Cemetery is back in this back area, and we'll show you illustrations in a moment to show you that. But yet, the other leg of that same property, the minimum distance is 108 feet. The grading area would not affect, they're requesting 15 feet of grading area and 93 feet of preservation area within that open space.
And Ed, one of the things, if you want to just go back to that for a minute, one of the things that we've talked about is the need to find a balance between open space and also doing our due diligence to provide for a safe access and also visibility. Is that one of the reasons why that is of that, not a larger swath of land?
Yes, I believe you're referring to the visibility of the development itself. And one of the things you have to consider, and when you're thinking of planning and zoning in locations for various uses, is that the proposed use is for retail. What's very important for a retail center is visibility along a major corridor. And that's one of the requests why, in fact, the arrangement that they're proposing is to allow for the visibility, but on balance with preserving the ridge line that's adjacent to Intervale Road. And I think what our sections will show you is how that's being achieved from the concept plan. And again, we use the concept plan from the proposal in order to realize that illustration. But yet, in the meantime, we thought it was also important for you to see the differences between the existing zoning and the proposed settlement agreement request. And that what's shown here as a slight overlay of a line is a 200-foot buffer area from Intervale Road and 200 feet from the R3 district. And you can see in blue is the difference between the area. And as Ellen just pointed out a moment ago, is that, again, the idea is to provide a little bit more visibility of the development as a result of its configuration and its frontages on Route 46.
And then, Ed, as you saw, he just turns the bottom part green, and again, that's another addition that we're not actually paying for, but getting the benefit of the concern that people said we're getting some buffer, so we're getting that.
Correct.
As part of open space.
And that evolves to a 58% open space aspect of the overall development characteristics. So it's in keeping with not only the B1 zones, which are adjacent on Route 46, but also with adjacent open spaces on other parcels. So the sections that I was talking about a moment ago, just to help visualize what the open space would be like, is we decided to show a section between Forest Drive and the rear of the proposed buildings, and included also a section between Intervale Road and the rear of the proposed buildings at the closest points to adjacent residential properties. So you can get a sense for what that distance is and whether or not the open space would be sufficient. This is the overall section, as I just pointed to a moment ago, from A to A prime, looking as if you were slicing through the earth, looking towards the, I guess that's the westerly direction in the illustration. And what this shows is a cross-section, we use this often in planning, is a cross-section through that land to show you what that relationship would be. And as I provided in testimony and direct discussions with the council at prior meetings, is that due to the grading that's proposed, the actual sight lines from adjacent residences would be blocked by just the landform alone, let alone the existing trees that exist on that area. And what was important to stress, and I thought would be valuable for your consideration, is the idea that we're looking at the ridge area. This is the Doremus Ridge area, I believe, as everyone has phrased it, going through the review and various discussions on this. But also what the illustration helps to show is the area of grading that they're proposing. And what we're showing here is a revegetation of that slope. That would be a mixture of evergreens and deciduous trees, also various shrub material. But that also
And that would be a
corresponds-
requirement of the developer to
Correct.
reforest, right?
Correct. That's what I envision in that regard.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and then just while we're on that, and again, you know, you can see the, you know, the largesse of, you know, the tree cover and Doremus Ridge, and that would be new growth and vegetation. And one of the things I asked Ed when we were out on the site was with this grading and the reforestation of the area, refurbishing it back into its natural state, could they possibly, when they're putting that back, do something so that my walking expert feels could be placed right into the grading? And I was asked, you said that that could be done.
That can definitely be done. What's proposed is a 3-to-1 cross-section through the slope, and pathways are commonly put within that type of a slope condition. You would parallel the grade, but yet we could provide slope and, walkways through that area as part of the overall slope, pathway system that would be proposed in this open space.
Right,
What
and
I
again,
didn't-
pathway, just natural pathways, no stone or anything down, just a natural way to pursue the property and enjoy the property.
That's what you explained to me, and that's what I think you can definitely provide. What I didn't provide explanation of is that you see this lower illustration. This dashed line shows you where that cut line would go. So it's between the prospective Whole Foods building in the back, running through that sloped area for grading, and then through the open space parcel until you get to this line where there's actually the Doremus Cemetery. And then there's the other adjacent open space areas, as well as the Troy Brook that runs through adjacent properties, existing residents, and then out to Forest Drive. And that's what corresponds to the illustration above.
And just for the record, what we're looking at is just a cut through, so that property there, would be green and earth, right? We're looking at a side slice of the property,
Yes.
so someone doesn't think that that's any kind of structure.
I think what you're indicating is the colors that are provided here. Yeah, that color is really where the ground would be in the cross-section. And then on the next slide, I show a little bit more detail so you can see it from a distance. I know you're looking at this from a distance, but yet what shows here is the adjacent residential properties, Forest Drive, the Troy Brook, and the existing landform that exists in that area, showing how a straight line view from the back patio, let's say, or deck area would be blocked largely by just the landform alone, let alone the vegetation that exists. And it's recognized that that vegetation is deciduous. So what I wanted to show is what I could read on the plans was that there is this large landform that forms this buffer and screening, and this corresponding section is divided in two. You see this text here, it's repeated on both illustrations. This just shows you where that yellow line would continue as a view line, and then the adjacent sloped area for grading and the prospective development, the rear loading areas. And you can see actually the grade change is almost level with that adjacent area. And I think that's a benefit to the proposal.
Right. Thank you.
The next section, which I'll show you, is from Intervale Road to the rear of the Whole Foods building, just to get an idea of how the open space would exist in that area. Again, the plan view being on the bottom with Forest Drive on the left-hand side, the proposal for a Whole Foods facility on the right-hand side. This is where you would have the 108 feet of open space feature. And here you can see the existing landform again. Because of the sloped areas that exist along Intervale Road, you have that berm effect or landform effect that blocks views from adjacent roadways into the development. Thereby, the development is sort of tucked into the slopes and showing the proposed retaining walls and the area of grading that they're asking for in that buffer, which is this small area.
Again, just for clarity, because we know what we've been talking about for a while, when you mention retaining walls, those retaining walls you're talking about are on their property, correct?
That would be internal. Where the open space parcel is approximately from this line here to the right-of-way of Intervale Road.
And I see vegetation also on their retaining wall, so that would be something that through planning board, that would be maybe requested consideration
Would
to.
definitely be requested, yes, to vegetate those slopes. Definitely required, I should say. So with that, that summarizes the overall illustrations. We
Thank you.
just wanted to
Thanks,
provide
thanks,
that
Ed, for putting that
information.
together.
Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but again, I wanted to present that so that I'd get an opportunity to run it past the mayor and council and the folks that are here, and we'll be presenting that on October 23rd.
This was your dress rehearsal then?
This is true, yes, thank you. Don't be easy on me, Mike.
Thank you.
Ellen, how are they going to handle the cemetery portion? Are they going to refurbish that with open space funds, or?
That's really not part of this.
Cemetery is actually off track, if I can
It is
answer
off
that,
track.
Alan. It is off track.
Okay.
It would not be part of the open space parcel. It's adjacent to it. It's
Right.
directly adjacent to it, but it's not on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it is something also to note when people are taking their walk and through that they can access that.
Historically.
Historically, yes.
Okay.
Ellen, who's going to be with you at the presentation?
I have, I think, the folks here, and then I have Julie, who, not that she could ever take, anybody could take Gabe's place, but she stepped up to do that, and I think the mayor will be there. Would you like to be in attendance?
I was thinking the last time we needed to beg for a large amount of money from freeholders, I did go. I know most of them. Maybe
That'd be very nice.
I should.
Yes.
Yeah.
And requesting is good. Begging is even better, so.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, communications, correspondence, none, applications, none. This time,
Council President, before you go to closed session, I just want to make an announcement, Councilman Valori, that October 21st, 6 o'clock, Town Hall, Transparency Committee meeting.
Okay, great. And I
Okay.
guess the CFO and BAO.
Yeah, CFO, yeah, everybody.
Right, great.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
I just want to make an announcement also, just so everybody is aware, it's National Fire Prevention Week this week, so, please check your smoke detectors, your batteries. Also, Mount Tabor is going to be having an open house on the 26th from 10 to 2, so if you'd like to view their facilities at the fire department, or if you have children to see the fire trucks, I encourage you to go. But again, it's Fire Prevention Week. Please, check your smoke detectors. Thank our volunteers, actually, in our fire departments. They do a tremendous job. Thank you.
okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
AC finally goes on here.
Mr. DePiero?
Put there on like
Yes.
text.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Okay, please come up, state your name, your address, and please sign in. You'll be given 5 minutes.
Good evening, Bob Crawford, 35 Hidden Glen Drive. I wanted to follow up on the article that was in Parsippany Focus, I think last week or so, and also the video with regard that captured the discussion around the golf course issue. In the interest of full disclosure, I have an awareness of golf. I've been trying to play it for 5 years. I wouldn't claim to be able to play it, but I do have some idea of what it's about. I've also got some familiarity with civil service law and employment law. And I will say that after viewing the video, I walked away somewhat confused about what had been covered. And while it was a wide-ranging discussion, I think that there are a number of loose ends that need to be tightened up. And I'd like to ask some questions about that. And for simplicity's sake, I'd like to ask, I only got a couple of questions. The first questions would be with regard to the east, the lower knoll, and the second set of questions would be with regard to the west, the upper knoll. With regard to the lower knoll, my understanding is that John Trena is what we call a seasonal employee. He's an employee that works for 43 weeks of the year, given the golf season. The question I would have is that as a seasonal employee of the town of Parsippany, is he a civil service employee?
Why don't you ask your question?
I've actually, the one question might,
Well, because you're only allotted.
I understand, I'll
but
judge by 5. If I would, we're using my time now, could I do it the way I'd like to do it? Because the answer may evoke another question, and I respectfully, I think I can handle it with 5 minutes. So is he a civil service employee, please?
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it's a very critical answer because
Well,
indeed,
the question is whether whether seasonal employees in general are civil service. That's a question that we can answer, Paul.
yeah, is he?
Or Ellen. I don't know whether.
You know what, I don't have an answer to that
Well-
question right now.
Okay, it's a critical question, because if he's a civil service employee, there's a very specific job description which describes what his job responsibilities are. Now, let's assume he's a civil service employee, so the question would be, is there a reference in the civil service job description that speaks to the opportunity for a civil service employee to collect fees while working as a golf employee of the town of Parsippany? First question. Let us say he's not a civil service employee. Is there a job description for Mr. Trena in existence?
I think why don't you ask your questions?
Mr. Inglesino, I appreciate that, but I'm asking you the question, and I like to do it this way. I think it's my prerogative. So the question is there a current job description for Mr. Trena?
I don't know the answer to that question in terms of a written job description?
Yes, of course. A written job description. I believe that an employee of the town of Parsippany has to have one, whether it's civil service or not. And the reason I ask for it, because again, if there is, it would reference whether or not he has the right to collect fees for teaching lessons.
Don't know the answer to that question, but I don't know that I agree with the premise of your
Okay, well, I'm just,
question either.
fine, you and I may choose to disagree, but I think it's critical to say, to understand, is there a job description and what does it say? I think that it's also imperative and important because, again, after the end of the video, I want it clear that indeed Mr. Trena has done nothing wrong. He has done and collected fees because that was his understanding of what his job is. And I think it's very important, given the noise around this issue, that Mr. Trena be cleared of any wrongdoing. I think that's important. Now, with regard to the West, Mr. Ancuta, George Ancuta, is indeed has a contract with the town of Parsippany to perform his job. Is that correct?
He is a 1099 independent contractor.
Independent contractor, so he's very different than indeed from an employee. So as an independent contractor, I would assume that there is a contract, a written contract drawn up, which defines what responsibilities Mr. Ancuta has with the town of Parsippany, so we understand whether or not he's fulfilling his contract. Is there a contract, a written contract, that summarizes what his responsibilities are?
I believe there is.
Yes.
There is.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's a
so we know,
contract.
we're not sure about John Trena as an employee, but we know that there's one. Okay, good. So in that contract, does it stipulate that he can charge for lessons?
I don't recall, and I don't know that we want to give an opinion. I know
I'm
that.
not asking an opinion, sir. I'm asking whether or not in the contract it stipulates. It's not an opinion, it's a fact.
I don't have the contract.
You don't
in
have the
front of
contract,
me.
so we're not aware of what responsibilities this individual has for the township of Parsippany.
I don't.
30
well,
seconds.
Well, okay, well,
The township
the
certainly
last
does,
question,
but
excuse
without
me, I
having
want to
the
get my question in there before I get filibustered. The last question I have is, who is responsible in the town of Parsippany at the east and west knoll for the golf shops? Who oversees it? Who runs it for the town?
The contracted Knoll West golf vendor is responsible for the pro shop merchandising.
So does he sell it and reap the profits, or does some
Yes,
of it?
he does.
He does. So he uses the facilities to indeed train people, to give them golf lessons. He also uses the facilities to sell merchandise, and none of it comes back to the town. I understand playing golf, that's fairly standard, but I think we've got to get it clear in terms of precisely what these people are being charged with doing. The underlying assumption is that there's a written job description and a contract that clearly states it, because I think it's totally unfair to those two gentlemen for this cloud to be cast upon them because there's uncertainty as to whether or not anything has been written down. What disturbed me most of all was at the end of the last meeting, there was a sense that there's no policy, but but indeed if there is a contract.
Okay. Sir? Yes,
There
your
is
time
a
is up.
contract and there is a job description, there is something that reflects policy. And I
Okay.
think we've got to get to the bottom of what those documents say so that we can understand what's going on. And again, I'm
All right.
not suggesting
Okay,
anything
sir,
wrong
your
is going on.
your time's up.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
I've got 3 questions tonight. First of all, thank you, Ellen, for getting me the information.
Pat, just please state your
regarding-
name and address for the record.
Sorry, Pat Patacha, 182 Hawkins Avenue. For getting me the police retirees. There were 5 on there. There's no more, right? Just those 5? Okay.
Talk offline.
Huh?
We'll talk offline.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And I don't understand how these things go. Now, normally you retire with, what you have and whatever. They should be retiring for the rate and the rank that they are at that time, right? Now, if we have, and I know we do have some, in acting capacities, what happens if they retire?
My understanding is that, and it's broken down into the contracts where they have, whether, I believe the stipend doesn't carry over, but and I want to verify this because this is a question that I wasn't ready really to clarify, but for example, someone recently retired and they were in an acting capacity,
Right.
and as you know, you're getting compensated at that, and you're paying pension on that number. So it is permissible to utilize that number because you're paying the higher pension number. Is that not correct, Dan?
It's-
Yeah, so that's the understanding.
Just real quick, your last 12 months.
It's
What
based
you
on your
make
last 12 months.
Yes.
months is what you're
Yeah.
basing.
So it's not about so much title as directed by.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So, once again,
Yeah,
okay,
okay.
thank you.
So that's
Something we
what
can
I'm
look
saying.
into in the
Uh-huh,
future,
yeah.
huh? Okay. Oh,
That's why I see your shirt says not so much. I got it.
glad you notice things like that, Ellen. A lot of people don't get the humor. Okay, I am going to go back to the Knoll West Golf Course. Now, first of all, I think things are a little out of sorts. Nobody is blaming Mr. Vasals. Nobody's blaming Mr. Trainer. Nobody's blaming Mr. Ancati. What was being asked here is how this was arrived at, that this person, Trainer, was giving lessons. It has nothing to do with him personally, per se, nothing to do with the golf course, per se. So let's just get straight. According to what we were told last week, he was a pro trainer. And then he's a 10-month seasonal employee, and last year he worked under Ancuda. That was last year. Now, Ancuda is a contracted pro for the Knoll East and West per his contract, which I do have, Bob. You want to look at it? And it definitely doesn't state anything about an assistant or anybody else. That's just it. It could be an agreement between the pro and the assistant, that's fine, but, as far as him having an assistant, not mentioned on the contract. And in reviewing that contract, I got one question. Was this contract renewed? It ended December 31st, and you had until September 1st, 2013 to make it either a mutual agreement or whatever. Was that done?
The
Want
contract.
that answered at the end, or? 'cause-
Yeah, I would-
Yeah, you can answer that one at the end.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is where the problem is. These golf camps were announced and promoted by our mayor on our town website, and it gave people the belief that it was being run by the town. Okay? But it wasn't.
30 seconds.
He's not a professional. He's not an apprentice, per the phone call that was made to the national headquarters. We could have had a possible lawsuit. We still could possibly have a lawsuit if Yankudo wants to come after us on his contract, because his contract specifically says he is the pro at both of them. Again, advertised and promoted as the lessons being given by a pro. He's not a pro.
Time's up.
Okay, he's not a pro.
Thank you.
False advertising.
In answer to your question, Pat, George Ansuda, the,
John told him, yeah. No? Okay. All right, I thought, yeah. We just asked.
You gonna answer? What were you gonna say, Paula?
I'm going to defer to counsel.
Forget it, I know I'm not getting the answer. Okay, that's a simple question. Is this being investigated, by the way? Is something being done that nobody is?
Your time's expired.
Yes. Yeah. Time's up, Pat.
He just.
Jonathan Nelson, 202 Patriots Road. Sorry, Pat. I'm not touching that one.
But then
What I am going to ask is, after the last council meeting, I guess it was a day or two, and 8 or 9 newspaper articles, and on Channel 9 I saw that that the Morristown Superior Court ruled in favor of Parsippany Focus in a motion to quash a subpoena that was issued to Frank Cahill. So my question to the council, which I'm going to ask the council to ask the attorney, is did anybody in the administration authorize the township attorney to issue the subpoena and file the cross motions on it? And if yes or no, did the attorney ever give advice as to the likelihood of the township ever winning this motion? My experience sitting in the audience and being a council member, the attorney usually gives his opinion on the likelihood or lack of likelihood of winning particular motions. So I'm just curious what he had represented, if anything. I spoke to at least 25 different attorneys who are friends with me, and I've spoken to lay people in the legal profession, and I have yet to find one person who ever thought that the subpoena would stand, and it proved out that it did not. If the township attorney does believe that it was with merit and he believed that it was going to win it, I would really ask the council to start questioning the township attorney's judgment. I put in an open request last week, and I got it back yesterday, on how much the subpoena cost the town. I was not able to to add up all the numbers because a lot of things are redacted, but from the things that are redacted, that are not redacted, that it specifically talks about the subpoena and such, it was well over $5,000. Ellen, I respect you a lot. I think you're doing a fantastic job. The open space presentation, I don't see it ever happening, especially with the walking path. Over a year and a half ago, the township, in the budget, it was approved to do Smithfield improvements, and the council agreed with it, and we did bond ordinances for bond sales, and here it's a year and a half later, and that still hasn't gotten done. I can't see when we're ever going to get walking paths over here on Forest Drive.
I could say one thing, Smithfield's going to be done. It's just a process that takes its time, and what we actually want to put there.
Wait, real quick, are you done with your questions?
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I'll let
sorry.
you go your 5 minutes.
I think I'd like to also
Council President,
respond.
sorry.
I'm here.
This way,
Wait, hold on.
Oh, I'm
Let him
sorry.
on, I
finish.
apologize.
Yeah, I did have one thing. I lost my train of thought now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was just one more thing with the IMS Drive into Park Boulevard. here's another legal question that you can ask the township attorney. Is this relate just to private roads, or is the ordinance going to have to change as far as street renaming? And I'm just going to use Gates Court and the Hunting Ridge Condo Complex. Those are both private roads. Does the associations and the property owner have the right to change those roads as well, the names of those in the future? That's it.
Take the last question first. I think I gave an explanation that would have addressed your question. There's no need to change any ordinance. Here, it is within the property owner's control to change the name of that road because it is a private road and because they can go in and amend the plat. If it were a public road, then it would be totally within the jurisdiction of the township. If it was a private road and there was not an ability to amend the plat for whatever reason, then it would be, the issue would be in the total jurisdiction of the township governing body. But in this particular instance, that's not the case. They do have the ability to come in and amend the plat, and if they're able to do that successfully, then under the statute, they have the ability to change the name of the road. With respect to your other questions, Mr. Nelson, you know, or at least should know from having served on the township governing body, that it would be completely inappropriate for the township attorney or anyone from his office to discuss litigation strategy outside the purview of that with his client and in closed session. So I'm not going to do that. And without specific reference to this case, I can tell you that if there is somebody who has evidence of wrongdoing concerning the township, that we're going to do everything we can to get that information from that person. And if that person chooses to hide behind some privilege, if that person chooses not to be transparent, if that person chooses to take a position which I would argue would be adverse to the township's interest, then that person certainly has the right to do so. But it is the job of the township attorney's office to pursue every lead, every piece of information that may assist the township in its litigation efforts. I say that as a general proposition, and a proposition that can be applied to every litigation, including the one that you referenced, because that would be every litigation.
Do you want to talk about Smith Road? Are you done? Smith, do you want to talk about Smith?
I already talked about Smith.
Okay, I just want to go on record. As you know, Mr. Nelson, that we've spoken over a period of the last couple of months, and I'll use the word vetted. I know you looked into my background, and I know one of the things that you probably discovered is that under my watch in Denville, over 1,000 acres was purchased through open space, whether it's through the county monies or our own open space trust fund. And I want to go on record as that every single, whether it was passive or active recreation, was completed, and within enough time that when we went again to pursue other monies, they didn't say, well, you didn't finish this one. So I have a lot of faith in our people, and I have a lot of faith in my team, and I commit to you that I will do my darndest if all things go well there. And I just wanted to say that for the record, that we're going to get it done. We'll get it done. Thank you.
As for Smithfield, when the plans are done, we'll do a presentation for the township council. If you think that, you would like to have that council present, so.
Do we have any kind of status?
Right now, we're actually putting a all-turf girls softball field there. And because it's a pretty big piece of property, 4 acres of land. It's going to be multi-purpose. It could be used for cricket. It could be used for lacrosse. It could be used for soccer.
Right.
It could be used for about any sport.
Right. No, I know that. Any kind of time frame on?
I'll let you know. I'll speak to the Parks and Forestry director tomorrow, because he has been really, wanting.
No, I know it's a long process. I just,
If we get it going, again, I think in the beginning of next year, we can have it done by September 1st.
Oh, that'd be great.
You know. Just in time for.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, see no one else come forward at this time. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Formal action to be taken by council this evening on the following. Resolution R 2014-160, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills terminating the contract with Unique Floors LLC and authorizing liquidated damages. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Valori, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Okay, at this time, we'll be going into closed session. Resolution, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege and personnel matters, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting.
Mr. Council President, just this is personnel matters, the RD Realty litigation, the Bendis litigation. I believe that's it.
Okay. Motion to adjourn made by myself.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Stanton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Make a motion to reconvene into open session?
Motion made by Mr. Stanton.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Paluso. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, at this time, entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso. Seconded by Mr. Stanton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night.
Good night.